Welcome to episode number 4 of BullsEYE. Derek Sharp with Kaylee Cottrell and BJ Daniels will be speaking about a record-setting day for a couple members of the offensive unit. Actually, just coming in second place was Byron Brown, but getting all the national awards for his 435 and Naeem Simmons for his 272 through the air as the Bulls beat Rice 42-29. Sean Atkins, who taught Byron Brown all he needs to know about throwing the football, apparently. We'll get more with him on that in just a little bit, is going to be our special guest today, and you're going to hear from Alex Golesh, among many others. Now, we're going to give BJ a pass. I know so to speak, I know you were watching the game, but you weren't at the game, and we alluded to it last week. We're going to get to the Bulls here in a minute, but you got to give me the recap, man. Super Bowl reunion. And I saw you with the Lombardi Trophy. That probably never gets old.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience to get back. You know, you don't think it's 10 years ago that the Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl in 2013, but that's how old I am now. I guess, I'm dated, but I mean, it was amazing having a chance to hold the trophy again, be back at Lumen Field to watch the Seahawks take on the Panthers, to be back around my teammates, from Marshawn Lynch to Cam Chancellor to Richard Sherman, and have a conversation with Pete Carroll over dinner. I mean, it was a great experience and something that I miss. As a former athlete and player, you miss the USF locker room and those guys and the camaraderie and the alumni, and I didn't realize how much I would miss that in the NFL as well.
Wow. And with what happened with Russell Wilson's team, I wish he would just stayed back and been to the party with you guys. But one question about Marshawn Lynch. He kind of, not aloof. You could tell he's smart, but he's kind of like, he's got that different personality. Is that his actual personality?
That is exactly who he is. The way he acts with reporters, or he acts with me, or even my parents, he's the same guy. You either accept him or you don't. Some people respect that a lot and love that about him. Some people don't, but at the same time, you know what you're getting. He's loyal. He's a good friend.
Awesome.
He was hanging around the guys and laughing and joking, and we were telling war stories, and it was a good time.
Tremendous. Speaking of good time, Kaylee, we were back at the ranch in Tampa, and it was a 14-13 Rice lead at half, which you forget. And then just being down there on the field and watching Naeem Simmons, the show begin. That must have just gotten progressively more crazy and great.
Oh, that was so much fun. What a day he had. What a day Byram had. It was so fun to watch them just explode. And I talked to both of them after the game. And, he was talking about how much he's just trusting these coaches and this staff. And Byram was talking about just executing on those details and how much of a difference that makes. So to see those two, their hard work pay off and have themselves a day. It was pretty fun down there.
Yeah.
And one thing that happened was they essentially switched up their personnel just with the 2 wideouts and the 12 personnel and just kept taking shots. When that kind of thing happens, and it was a halftime discussion, and you hit it on the first play,
right?
Can that just sort of unlock things?
I mean, that was a great adjustment. I mean, when you as a player, when a coach says, "Hey, we're going to execute, we're going to do this," and then you go out there and trust the coaches and you do it and it works, that continues to build that trust with the new staff, with a quarterback, with the receivers, a lot of first-year players in different pieces. So, that instills a lot of confidence both ways. And I think that will encourage the players to continue to play for the coaches, trust the coaches, and even get better and better when as the season continues.
A couple other things on the show today that you guys want to watch out for. Now, we got to put this out there. Sometimes when you're watching this, obviously it's not live. We do stuff ahead of time. So we talked to the greatest receiver. You might know of this guy, Andre Davis, in school history. Yeah. He leads them in a couple categories, catches, yards, and touchdowns.
Right.
First of all, your thoughts on that character?
Yeah, Andre Davis. I mean, what a guy. I mean, he's a Tampa native, Jefferson High School. I remember my first game with him was against FAMU. And he scored a touchdown in that game, as a true freshman. So Andre Davis has been very impactful with this university. I was so happy. I didn't get to play with him all 4 years, but I was very happy the impact he's made as I was in my professional career watching back. Like, he's still balling. He's still doing his thing. And, he knows a thing or two about playing receiver.
What a cool guy. Wait till you see his headgear. Trust me on that. Now, we did record it before the game. So if you're watching it and you go, ask him about Naeem Simmons. It hadn't happened yet. And then Billy Mohl, who is going into the Tulane Athletics Hall of Fame, of course, the South Florida baseball coach. We talk about Orion Kirkring and the chances for him to get a call-up. After the interview happened, he did get that call-up, and he made his Major League debut on Sunday. So that's why that happens. But first of all, we're gonna start making big predictions on our interviews ahead of time. But secondly, off football, I know you're a big baseball person too, Kaylee.
Yeah,
How cool is that to see Kirk?
You know what? Like my first year, covering these teams, it was during his season, so I got to be there with him in his last year here, and watch the stuff he had and how he was throwing, and the future was so bright at the time, and now to see him,
It's hard to hear.
Doing what he's doing now. And I've seen all the videos on Twitter from MLB, from the Phillies, and they showed his dad up in the crowd just crying.
Wow,
I
man.
teared up watching it, because what a moment.
It's a real moment,
Can't
yeah.
imagine, but super proud.
So you're going to see Coach Mohl in a little bit, and you're also going to see your work this week. If you're ever curious what goes on behind the scenes with the video board, the big video board, you get right into it, right?
I did a pregame. I was with in-game presentation up in the control room and with marketing to kind of get a behind-the-scenes look of the whole presentation side of game day. It was pretty fun.
So we're going to recap all of that when you see us all together again. We've got some business to take care of until then. And we're definitely covering not just South Florida here, but I want to get everybody's reaction to the whole Taylor Swift thing. We're going to hold off on that. BullsEYE is going to continue with Coach Golesh shortly.
From Raymond James Stadium in beautiful Tampa, Florida, for the first conference game of the season, as the South Florida Bulls welcome the Rice Owls to the American Conference.
It's everybody in this thing together. And I'm praying on us together. Everybody with me? Yes, sir.
Brown on the move, breaks a couple tackles, has the first down and more. Football, couple of broken tackles, inside the 10, into the end zone. Touchdown, South Florida. Brown slings it wide open. Touchdown, South Florida. Naeem Simmons. Down he goes. Clean pocket, lets a deep ball fly. Great catch. Looking for the score. And he gets it. Wide open, Sean Atkins. Touchdown, USF. Trying to pay it off, and he goes. Touchdown, USF.
And the head coach joins us now on BullsEYE. Derek with BJ and Coach Alex Golesh, whose team put up a lot of numbers the other day. And actually, in our little short pregame radio thing, I asked you, could the offense explode today? And I think I saw it in your eye that you thought, and I actually heard it in your voice going into halftime when things were, limited possessions. It exploded. Tell us about the brilliant idea, first of all, to go to 12 personnel more in the second half, and it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting deal being in this offense. Now this is my second time in a year one going through it, and you kind of see it the same way where you see glimpses, you're just not quite hitting on all cylinders, and then at some point there's a breakthrough, and I think our process leading up to it earned that right. For the first time really since we've been here, I felt like in practice it was clicking like you would want it to click, and certainly hopefully gives us confidence moving forward that that's what it should look like. But through the first 4 possessions, we had really 5 possessions, but 4 up until that last play before half. You were like inches away here, inches away there. Took points, which was good to take points, but you've got to be able to score touchdowns, especially if the other team is able to push it down the field and do the same. So I felt like we were really close. I know you mentioned I put a lot of pressure on Byram saying what I said after the game, but it was Byram that's like, man, coach, like, and we had a heavier personnel plan going into the game. I'd actually told Byram we were going to probably use the third possession of the game, and we didn't. And so he said, man, like, would that kind of give us a chance to do some different things? I said, sure, let's try it. And when the quarterback says it, you know that he believes in it. So anytime I told him, if you got any more ideas, come at me. But when the quarterback says that, you know that that's what he feels comfortable with. Well, if he doesn't feel comfortable with it, it doesn't matter what I think. So said, sure, let's roll with it, see what happens. And we rolled with it a couple of times there. And certainly, I think, for whatever reason, that's what he felt comfortable with, because I think the picture cleared up for him a little bit, and I think it certainly settled the defense down a little bit. We were getting a ton of pressure early in those first 4 drives. I think getting a little bit bigger and having a threat of isolation on the outside settled him down a little bit, and Byram took full advantage of it.
Interesting. And the guy that I know you're a big fan of, BJ, took advantage on the outside a few times. What did you think of Naeem?
Yeah, Naeem did some really good things. Versus Alabama, I was kind of looking for the receivers to make a little more plays, be more impactful, and then Saturday they proved it. You got Joffrey Brown, Sean Atkins, Naeem Simmons goes for 272, and a tub to set the USF receiving record. Can you talk about their impact and what they're doing to help Byram in making plays?
Yeah, I think you go back and you look at the limited time they've had together. Byram, knock on wood, stayed healthy all through spring. Naeem practiced 5 days and was out. Sean practiced, I think, 6 days, was out. Joffrey missed the entire spring. Michael Brown-Stevens wasn't here. Jaden Alexis wasn't here. Kelly Joyner was playing running back and receiver. There was never a consistent connection with those guys. We get to fall camp, and it's really the first time that they are working together. Well, we play a game 4 weeks after that. So, you can simulate all you want, but until they're just out there by themselves in front of real fans and on a real field with a clock running, it's really hard to say what it's going to look like. You just hope that the tools you gave them help them. So you've seen at times, Sean Atkins has been really, really consistent for us through the first 3 games. Joffrey and Michael have split time, and Michael missed the first game. And then Yusuf Terry came back and has been banged up, and Jaden Alexis has played outside, played in the slot, and Naeem started in the slot for us. And as we got through the first week, it was like, man, who are our best 11 right now? Well, it happened to be Sean and him were part of that. It's like, man, Naeem, you're going to go on the outside. Well, it took him really 2 weeks to figure that out. It's different playing on the outside. You got a body in your face all the time. And so you're seeing their growth, and we're seeing their growth right in front of us with every single play that they have together. They're gaining more and more confidence and gaining more and more confidence. And I think the first touchdown that Naeem caught was like, all right, like, that's what it looks like. I'm good. And, so then you go back to him. And there was obviously matchup things that we liked on the outside, and we felt like we could win. And those guys took full advantage of it. And it's interesting, like, you watch even Joffrey's play, the big long run, like, you could clean up a million things on that. He didn't dig out of the vertical run. Ball security was a complete disaster. There were so many things you could clean up, and you're like, man, like, if we just continue to clean these things up and keep taking steps, I'm really excited about that group. I've said that since camp. I'm really excited about them. I just don't know how confident they really were. And I think one at a time, I think Sean Atkins is confident and has been and always will be, just because how he's built. Naeem finally feels like, all right, I know I can play here. And I think anytime you come up from, like, he played FCS football, I think out there he felt like, man, I'm confident. Then you get out there, like, until you actually do it and make plays, it's really hard to say I'm really confident, And a guy like Joffrey, who's played a bunch of football but has been on and off injured his whole career, for him to go and make another big play, now he's got the confidence to just keep doing it. And Michael Brown-Stevens, same deal. Michael's started a bunch of football games in his career, not in this offense, not with this quarterback, not at the tempo we're doing it. So he's growing into it. It's been fascinating. They've grown as Byram's grown.
You mentioned the position switch for Naeem, and I know that you've talked about this already, but if you guys didn't hear, you kind of gave him a pep talk. So some people from Navy have been asking me, anyone you're giving a pep talk to this week? Just kidding. There were a couple, speaking of confidence, moments in the game that could have gone in the wrong direction. First of all, when Day and later Jalen both got hurt, they both returned, adding to the tough-ass dudiness of this squad. But also, you know what I'm talking about, third quarter, when you're inches away from 27-14, and next thing you know, you're behind. And actually, the offense had to punt, but the defense comes out and makes a stop at midfield. Boy, that to me was everything. It becomes an afterthought when you see all these records, but it seems like it was no big deal for you guys.
Yeah, I feel like in every game we've had some monumental moments as we build this thing. For us, it's year one. For half the guys in that locker room, it's year one. So every situation that happens can be spun any way you want it to be. It could be a negative. It could be used as a learning tool. I've strained to make all of these learning tools, and you drill and drill and drill a next play mentality. And, I talked about the Alabama game, the interception on offense and the defense, what their approach was to the next drive and getting a stop and creating a stop and forcing a punt. This was now flipped. Offensively, we're down on the 1 yard line. We fumble it. Like, so many negative things come out of that. You're on the 1 yard line. You got to be scoring, and you turn it over, and then the very next play, Rice scores, like a 14-point swing, right? And again, like, now what? Like, where do we go? Is this a here we go again moment, or is this truly a next play mentality moment? And in the same breath, the defensive guys are coming off, and I'm just standing there. I want to see what the reaction is. And because we've empowered these guys to lead each other and push each other and love each other, those offensive guys are standing there getting ready for after the kickoff, and they're now dapping the defensive guys up and say, we got you, we got you, we got you, we got you. Like, powerful moments, like publicly, like probably doesn't matter and nobody really cares for us. And for me, certainly leading the program, those are monumental moments. Do they equal wins? I think at some point they do. Us coming together and actually truly playing for each other, like, that's powerful and also really hard to do. Now we go on the road and it'll be another first and another new, like conference win on the road. Like, how do we do it? Well, we just go to work. Next play mentality, work as hard as we possibly can, work really smart, and then play harder for longer. And there's going to be moments in this game coming up on Saturday where they could go either way. And as long as we continue to respond, because not all the responses are always positive. And for us, really love up and empower the positive, really coach up the negative, and continue to try to get better every week. And so far, that's how it's gone. We'll see. We'll just handle the next road bump as it comes.
Nice.
Coach, so looking forward, Navy, so much goes into their offense and the different things that they do. Obviously, they can't be traditional wing tee, and they kind of get away from that a little bit. And it also provides limited times of possessions for an offense. So in preparation for this week, offensive and defensively, what are you preaching to the guys or really harping on this week?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with this Navy team is that they're uber disciplined, as you would assume they would be. Really tough, really hard-nosed. They're in the right place at the right time on both sides of the ball, and special teams as well. So when you're playing a team that's uber disciplined, uber tough, like, you got to be uber disciplined, uber tough. And so that it's the truth. They watch the film. They matchup-wise, you see what it looks like, good or bad or neutral. They know the matchups. Now it's a matter of us executing at a high clip. Really different offensively. So the discipline this week, going in, starting with yesterday morning, like every minute of every day, there's something that you can teach and coach and get better at. That's a challenge to both sides of the ball. Defensively, they're unique too, man. It's a high pressure, bunch of movement. It's different than what you're maybe used to seeing sometimes, especially when you do what we do on offense. And it'll be interesting to see their response to what we do on offense. But you're right on the limited possessions. It's the same way we went into last week. We knew we were going to be limited possessions. And like the first half of that Rice game, you look back and you're like, man, first of all, that happened really quick. And second of all, you had 4 opportunities. Like, man, 4 opportunities. You better go take advantage of every single one. So I think it'll be similar in that sense. We got to get off the field defensively. That's the big challenge to us. We had 4 opportunities on defense on 4th downs to get off the field on Saturday. Offensively, you got to convert 3rd downs and you got to keep drives alive. So you got to be able to take more chances, and you've got to be able to convert points. And sometimes 3 is not detrimental, but it's certainly a kick in the backside to take 3 points. So we got to be uber disciplined. We got to be really, really aggressive when we get opportunities to be aggressive. But what they do on offense, if you're not disciplined in what you do, they're house calls.
Right.
So every single play matters. All 11 being locked in at the same time is really, really important. And it's different. So anytime it's different, you got to pour more into it to make sure that the end result is what you want.
For the record, when you look at the box score and see that Rice was 4 of 5 on 4th downs, the Bulls were 0 for 0. You were going to go for it twice. One was the PI, one was you had to settle for the field goal after the penalty. You mentioned Navy. Now, normally it's about, and you say it and I agree, it's about us, not so much about the opponent. I'm not talking about that from a prep standpoint. I'm talking about the experience this weekend. You know, it's not just a normal road trip. You're going to allow your guys to sort of admire what's going on up there in Annapolis?
No. For us, it's the next opportunity, and just so happens to be that it's on the road. You know, obviously we're aware of who we're playing, certainly aware of the tradition and the pageantry that goes into what that place is, and have a ton of respect for what certainly the academy is, and certainly what those young men are going to go do when they're done playing for 60 minutes on Saturday. It's us being the best version of us, and I don't super know that the rest of it matters.
They're going to be ready to play, in other words. I got to ask you, do you have victories? We had a couple so far. Do you have a celebratory, if you will, post-game meal? I mean, or is it just whatever happens after the game? Because I'm just trying to picture, I would have a certain thing lined up after every victory.
Man, I guess I haven't gone that far with it.
Okay. All right.
I could tell you, we're playing these 3:30, 4 o'clock games, and not a whole lot of time to just go sit down and smash. Saturday, I called my wife on the way home, asked her if we had any food. She said she could warm up some pizza, and so I ended up door dashing sushi on. Man, I don't even remember before that. So I guess the answer is no.
Well, while you're thinking of it, though, I'm going to blame you for something. Like subconsciously, maybe frontal consciously. When I go past Portillo's now, I think of you, and it worked. It worked a couple times.
Well,
and do you go with anything besides the Italian beef? Because
you know what, I'm not like a giant Italian beef guy.
Okay.
I actually really like the burger. Believe it or not, cheeseburger, the cheese fries.
Thought about that.
The brownie shake sometimes. It's a bad deal. Now, I pub them enough that it's time that they call Fowler and do something for us too.
I agree with that.
There you go.
I'm going to name drop you so I get a free meal, by the way.
Do it.
So.
Wait a second. He told us last week he didn't know what elephant ears were.
Absolutely
He thought I was telling him to actually, poach an elephant. So
Yeah.
you would probably never go to a fast food place, would you?
Portillo's, I will.
You haven't spent enough time in the Midwest, which is cool. Totally good.
Hey, enjoy your time in the, Mid-East this week. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot.
Appreciate it. Go Bulls.
That is Alex Golesh. Bullseye continues.
A lot goes on behind the scenes to make game day possible. I'm Kaylee Cottrell, your Bulls insider, and today I'm getting an inside look. Overall, what does game day look like through your eyes?
Yeah, game day, it's just such a precious day for everybody that's involved, for our entire school and all our fans. And so for us, from a marketing standpoint, it really comes down to the driveway experience for our fans. And so there's a lot of moving parts to it, thousands of people behind the scenes doing what it takes to provide the best fan experience that we possibly can and helping build and make that better every single game.
It's a really long day. The whole team kind of comes together and makes it happen. So we have a wonderful crew here at Raymond James Stadium that really kind of execute on the elements that we have scripted out. So that's everything from video content to music to lights to all the different kind of activations that we do within the stadium and within the new show.
Start to finish, what does your day consist of?
Yeah, so just a lot of coordination throughout the week. So really the hay's in the barn once we get to game day, and it just becomes about execution. Game scripting, coordination with vendors, any type of recognitions, corporate sponsors, all those elements that we have throughout the game, and then really the fun stuff. There's tons of t-shirt tosses and those types of things that we want to do to help heighten that fan experience. We've got staff that work BullsEYE, the student tailgate, and really just It's just every touch point that a fan can experience.
Number one, I make sure that we have all of our sponsorship activations accounted for, that we meet all of our sponsorship requirements, and then I go back and after all the need to do's are done, we look for ways to kind of differentiate our show from other colleges and other schools. So we try to engage our fans as much as possible.
What are some of the detailed logistics that go on behind the scenes on game day for you?
It's loading into all these different machines, so like people don't really understand how many machines it takes to put things on video boards. So when we load something, it goes on like 9 different machines at once, and so it's a wild process, and making sure that everything runs smoothly is quite a task. 3, 2, 1, go John.
Bulls Nation,
Video board operations is a really big component of that, and then how it ties in with your spirit groups and the band and really kind of the non-football, the things that happen outside the lines. And so there's a lot of coordination that goes up in our production booth, a lot of hours in that booth. Like today is a 25-page script that gets us going.
What are some things that you think people might not know about the in-game component of game day?
I think the importance of timing. I know at the professional level and the collegiate level, just getting our timing down right and getting games kicked off on time is so important. You know, you never want to hold up the action with an element that we're doing or something. So just the timing, people don't realize like how to the second we are.
All in all, that's a great thing about what we do, is we're highly engaged with our fans, and we hope that we're adding value to that game day experience.
We are back we are on the theme of receiving today, that is for sure. Noted pass catcher Sean Atkins, and also, we'll get there eventually, heck of a thrower of the football. Don't worry, we'll get around to your cat. We will mention your receiving yards, because people don't realize this year you've had at least a handful every game, and already more total than you did all of last year, which is kudos to you. But let's start off with specifically what just happened the other night. You had a good game. Your buddy Naeem had a great game. How cool was that to be a part of?
It was just unbelievable to watch him, flourish in front of the home fans and stuff. I see how hard he works day in and day out, and that's my guy. A lot of the coaches are hard on him, but he takes the criticism very well, and it proved last game for sure.
Sure. And then one other thing that Coach Golesh just talked to us about shortly was trying to get the best 11 on the field and how you guys kind of played the same position. How much of a challenge is that? And people would just think wideout is a wideout, but it's not true. I mean, he had to switch.
Oh yeah, definitely changing positions is really hard. He embraced it. Whenever you want the best 11 guys out there, you kind of do whatever it takes to sacrifice to have the team in the best position to win. He took that role and ran with it. He went for 270 yards. I mean, that's just unreal. And he's one of those guys that you just look at and you're just like, that's like a role model, that's the guy you want to have in your room for sure.
And then one question about the 272, because I know you guys are just getting the play call and you're executing. Is there a point though when you realize somebody's doing something special that you ask around and see what his numbers are? I know you can't look it up.
Yeah, you definitely start asking around, but then it's like, come on, why didn't you get 300? So.
Well, how did it start for you? Take us back to the beginning. Where did football come into your life?
So I was always a soccer kid growing up. I never really played football. I played like flag football here and there. But then, my grandpa played at Kentucky, so.
My parents both went to UK, so I know about that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Big props.
He definitely bled blue, but
Same here.
he put me into it. I hated it. I hated getting touched. I hated getting tackled. So I actually went and quit. I went to turn in my pads, and he kind of told me, like, you have to do it. I'm not doing it for you. And I went in, and the coach was like, you can help out the team. And then ever since then, it just kind of ran with it and just loved it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in high school, you also lettered in both football and basketball.
Yeah.
How do you think basketball may have helped your football career? Because I can imagine the focus, the good eyes.
Yeah, basketball helps a lot, hand-eye coordination and everything like that, being a receiver. And kind of just the one-on-one aspect of it, I feel like you kind of just want to beat the guy in front of you in basketball, and I just feel like it translates to football and whenever you're a receiver for sure, because it's one-on-one matchups all the time.
So when did football stick with you?
Kind of when I was probably in 8th, 9th grade, going into 9th grade. Like I said, I was a soccer kid growing up. I was really good at soccer, but it was just something about football that just, I don't know, it was a challenge for me, and it was just something I really enjoyed doing and getting better at for sure.
Wow, all the similarities. The Kentucky background. Good job by your granddad, by the way.
Yeah.
You're listed at 5'10", 172. This guy is 5'10",
There
172.
you go.
For some reason, you look like more than an athlete. And I love soccer, too. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you made the decision to go to football.
Me too.
And how tough was it to make the decision to switch away from being quarterback? Because obviously, you were really good at that.
It wasn't that hard. The coach still promised me, a lot of touches and like putting in packages for me to play quarterback. But it was just something that I always enjoyed doing at receiver, because whenever you're a quarterback, you want to say you're an athlete and go play receiver. So whenever roles flip, you want to be quarterback. And so it wasn't that hard, but I like quarterback as well.
Well, let me ask you about the two-point conversion. Of course, we had the double pass before that against FAMU, but the two-point conversion, were you lobbying for that? I mean, the situation in the game called for at some point probably a go for two, but you could not have dreamed it up better, especially after you had bragged about how you can hang with Byram to throw the ball to him.
Yeah.
How did that come to be?
It
good
was
play.
coach's game plan. Whenever he tells you that you can throw the ball, you get super excited. Of course, you're going to lobby for it. But just throwing it to Byram, I think that's so cool to me, because it finally is like, here, bro, like I got you back, But
Well, you haven't always been, now it's like come to this point for you. And it seems like this is the payoff year. But you started off, as a walk-on. People that don't know, the 38 is kind of a walk-on receiver number.
Yeah.
But you decided to keep it. Take us through that part of your journey.
So whenever I came in, I was a really shy, really reserved guy, and my locker partner was Dono. So, and at the time there was a rapper out that was going viral and stuff, and his nickname was 38 Baby. So then Dono kind of just gave it to me like 38 Baby, and it was kind of cool because like a lot of the guys, they didn't know my name at all. So like whenever they saw me, they'd be like, "What up, 38 Baby?" So I kind of just took it and ran with it.
With your journey here, how different is it from when you took the field the first time to now?
It's a lot different. It's cool to actually be able to impact in the game in a sense, but it's super cool whenever you go out there for the first time, as a freshman, sophomore, whatever you want to call it, but just being able to see the fans and just interact with the fans, and then them interacting with you after the games and stuff. I think that's the coolest experience for sure.
Well, here I thought 38 would have been maybe an homage to Antonio Langham or George Rogers. But not a lot of 38s in football history, by the way.
Yeah.
Coach Golesh mentioned that the receiving group, it's coming together, and people just don't realize some of the guys weren't here yet. Michael Brown-Stevens, Jaden Alexis, guys were hurt, including you. So it really was different in the spring. How did you overcome your injury, and was it maybe it seems like you got back on the field quicker than even they thought?
Yeah, it's definitely just consistency, going into rehab day in and day out. It's so repetitive in the training room, but you kind of just have to keep on grinding. A lot of the guys, Naeem was hurt in the spring,
Right.
Seth was hurt, Michael Brown-Stevens is still, dealing with some injuries and stuff, and, Yui's hurt, so like a lot of people are just hurt, banged up, but just, being consistent and going in, putting in the work is something that just allows you to get back on the field.
Well, one thing that I could tell you do a lot of work in, and people, let me just tell you, especially media, when they're looking at a box score of a football game, first thing is probably total yards, and then they look at, the individual stats. One thing they won't look at is a punt return where the ball maybe would have gone 15 yards up the field, but you run and get it, and it's only a 4 or 5 yard return. You can just tell it's something you worked on. Take us through that part of your skill set, because I'm very impressed.
Yeah, so punt return has always kind of came natural to me. In high school, I was punt returner. Took a couple back to the crib. But that's just something that I feel like is something that's overlooked. I feel like there's a lot of yards that can be saved in punt return, and I kind of feel like you have to be a little bit crazy to be a punt returner. But just that journey has been really cool because all eyes are on you, so it's a lot of trust between the coaches and you. I'm just glad that they trust me enough to put me out there and do my job.
So that's a good kind of crazy.
Yeah,
Is there anybody else,
absolutely.
if you were to relinquish your punt returning duties for a second or two, was there anybody that can match your craziness on the team?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't think so either. Hey, Sean, keep up the great work.
Appreciate it.
And we barely touched on his stats. Again, 24 catches, at least 5 in every game so far. Last year was a career high with 19, so he has been doing it up. Stay tuned, more Bullseye coming up.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. We have the Andre Davis, Mr. Tampa, USF's all-time leader in receptions and yards, as well as touchdowns, just ahead of Tyree McCants and Rodney Adams. Andre, what's up, baby?
Not much, Sam. Good to see your face, my man.
Good to see you, man. You know what? I think when you came in as a true freshman, if I'm not mistaken, that was 2011.
Right.
You were killing all the starters in practice. So we knew you were going to be something. But I think it was that same year you blocked the kick against FAMU. So I said, not only is he a young guy who's talented at the receiver position, he's embracing special teams. You had the opportunity to go anywhere in the country, but you stayed in your hometown, still in your hometown. We'll talk about that later. You did what a Tampa kid would love to do, man. How does it feel? Tell me what life has been like since you've left South Florida. And again, you just lived the dream of a Tampa kid and going to USF and accomplishing so many things.
Like I say, I'm first and foremost, I'm more than grateful for the opportunity Coach Holtz gave me. Before that, when I was a senior in high school, actually, I was at a 7-on-7 at USF called the Sling and Shoot, and Coach Levitt verbally offered me. And that day, that's when USF was really high on my chart, because I was like, dang, these right here in my hometown, they really want me bad. So that put me on USF's radar. And, with y'all, before I got there, those Matt Grothe games, those were some good games. I watched those coming up. So being able to be a Tampa guy and come to USF and do all those great things that I did, I'm more than grateful to be able to have that opportunity.
You were the type of player that not many guys could guard one-on-one. You had deceptive speed. You had great catch radius, great vertical catch radius. What was it that made you such a special talent? The game is so different these days than it was back then. But what do you think developed your game for you to be such a special player?
Well, I tell people this all the time. Starting from when I was like 6, 7 years old, my dad, I didn't start playing football, padded football, until I was like 10 years old. So when I was like 6, 7, I liked football. So me and my dad would go outside, and he'll throw the football with me. But one thing that always stuck with me that he told me, he always consistently drove into me: catch the ball with your hands. Catch the ball with your hands. Catch the ball out front. Don't let the ball get up on your body. Catch the ball out front. And that's something that I always it always stuck with me, and I always embraced that, because I was always one of the best catchers of the balls, period. I played baseball coming up, football, basketball. I played every sport, but when it came to catching the ball, that stuck with me, that little thing right there. And I just took it and ran with it. And every time I would throw a football, catch the football, I would make sure I catch it out front with my hands. And that pretty much has something to do with my catch radius, because I have long arms. So when I put them arms out there, it's hard for a DBU on my back. Your arm's not as long as mine, so it's hard to get to that ball.
Yeah. Again, being a Tampa guy, there's a lot of conversation about the on-campus stadium. How exciting does that make you, and what dividends do you think it will pay into USF's future by having that stadium?
Oh, man, I'm beyond excited. I wish y'all could have seen me when before the indoor was built, right before the indoor was put up. I was such an avid for that, because I know that that on-campus stadium, and that facility is going to bring many more recruits to the area. And I feel like that's what USF has been deserving, that facility, that indoor with that on-campus stadium. USF they deserve that for a long time. So it's great to see that, and I feel like it'll bring much more, not even just recruits. It'll bring more people to the University of South Florida, period.
Yeah. And then one more thing. Obviously, you had such a great career at USF. I'm sure all the fans want to know, into the community, impacting these young people's lives.
Yeah, so as of right now, I'm actually I'm a PE teacher at this school called Woodmont Charter. It's not too far from the campus. It's actually right around the corner from the campus. I'm there with babies, PE teaching them, mentoring them, and I also have been doing some little league coaching as well around the area. So That's what I got going on. Coaching, teaching, and training. I do one-on-one personal training also.
Well, that's amazing, man. And I want to thank you for obviously the work that you're doing in the communities. And I'm sure these parents don't know it, but they're getting some really, really good quality training for their kids by being around the likes of you, man. So I appreciate your time. I know you got a family to get back to. Congratulations on the kid you just recently had. And again, I'm happy to call you a Bull brother, man. So thank you for your time.
Definitely that, Sam.
And we'll
Major
catch
love.
you
I'm
next
happy to
time.
call you a Bull, big bro. You know that.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate
Yes,
it. We
sir.
had some great times at USF.
Definitely that.
Back here on BullsEYE with a very special guest. You know him as the head baseball coach at South Florida, Billy Mohl. And we will talk a little bit about the Bulls for sure. But coming up this weekend is something that goes back to his alma mater. That is the reason we wanted to sit down with you before you headed to a place you've been to a few times in your life, New Orleans. And we've talked about it in the past, but for those of you who don't know, Hall of Famer. And it's going to be official this weekend. So as we're getting closer to it, it's starting to hit, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's nothing I ever thought would happen, but very grateful for the selection into it, and looking forward to the weekend.
So we're going to have to brag on your playing days just a little bit, because you were an outstanding pitcher for the team that made it to Super Regionals twice and the College World Series. And I know we've talked about, and we all know just a few years ago the Bulls were in that realm, but to actually do it, relive that for us just a little bit.
That was a special group of guys that stuck together. Obviously had a couple transfers that come in, it became part of the family, but in my 4 years playing, we went to 4 regionals, 2 supers, and went to Omaha as the #1 team in the country. And we just kept building off of it each year, and it was fun to kind of watch the progression and do it with the same guys year in, year out. It was a lot of fun.
We got to enjoy it. If you're a Bulls baseball fan and you were in Gainesville, you know all about it. You can flash back to Clearwater and beating UCF for the championship. But I just can't imagine actually making that next step. So I know you got to focus on the next step, especially if you're ranked #1. But still, that must have been incredibly special.
It was unbelievable. It was something you'll never forget. Something that all my teammates, myself, our former coaches are proud of. The work that it took to get to that point. I look back with those are some of my fondest memories of college.
Give me a memory as far as a game along the way, or even there in Omaha, that stands out to you. And it doesn't have to be a personal performance, but there's always those big times that happen.
I mean, it was that third game against Rice in the Super Regional. It was win, go to Omaha, or lose and go home. And the year before, we lost to Cal State Fullerton. We went 0-2 at Fullerton and had to take the long plane ride home without a trip to Omaha. So, celebrating in front of 5,000 plus people and getting a chance to go to Omaha for the first time, that's hands down the best moment I experienced.
And that was in Houston?
No, that was we hosted at Tulane.
Okay, well, that must have been crazy. Now, for those who don't know, incredible numbers, and you won't be surprised to hear this, really low walks per 9-inning pitch. The man wore number 31. And not only was that for Greg Maddox, I'll say it, I saw you. You had that same action going on. Was he kind of your hero there?
Well, Nolan Ryan was always the guy I grew up and I idolized, but I got to the point where I didn't throw as hard as Nolan Ryan.
I wasn't going to say it.
And in order to pitch at Tulane, you had to throw strikes. If you didn't throw strikes, you didn't pitch. So spent a lot of time honing my craft, and we brought in probably 4 or 5 freshman arms that year. I think freshmen started 3 out of every 4 games my freshman year on the mound, which is unheard of. And we had Maddox, Smoltz, and Avery, so that's kind of how we looked at ourselves.
Not a bad rotation for especially a group of freshmen. Now, do you show you can say this, don't worry. Do you show your kids that tape every now and then?
I've pulled out a few tapes every once in a while, but I've also shown them, I've shown some videos of me getting hit around a little bit, so they know that it does happen.
It does every now and then. Let me ask you about this weekend. The first obvious question is, have you thought about what you're going to say? I know somebody else that's inducted into this class, Todd Graffinini, who is an incredible announcer and was with Tulane and now works for the New Orleans Pelicans. So you don't have to worry about talking longest, but what are you going to think?
I'm going to let him fill half of my slot too. No, it's just going to be a lot of thank yous. A lot of people that allowed for this to happen, that kind of made me who I am today. Just a lot of gratitude will come out of what I have to say. So I'm very thankful.
Now, we'll get to New Orleans in a second, but people assume that, that's kind of where you're from. You're not. You're from Colorado, so that you can't change climate much more. What drew you to New Orleans, and was that a culture shock at first? You made it sound like, hey, here we are, the Atlanta Braves in that freshman season, but there were some steps in there.
Oh, there's some steps. I spent my first 12 years in Colorado, cold, snow, mountains, not exactly baseball weather. Moved to Houston when I was 12, went to middle school and high school in Houston, and then was obviously recruited my senior year and ended up in New Orleans. So I've kind of been a journeyman. I've lived in a bunch of different states, and but New Orleans has a special place in my heart.
Absolutely. So Houston, well, no longer in the American, but Tulane, places that you still get to hang around. Now, speaking of you becoming a New Orleans guy, and I got to tell you, he is beloved. Even people that are just recently with the program came up to me last year, and they're always asking about Billy and stressing that point. So I'm sure there's this incredible loving relationship. Going back there, I know it's just a couple of days away, but forget the Hall of Fame part, but just what's your overall thoughts of going back to school there?
It gives me goosebumps because, I take a lot of pride in it. I've always wanted to do the right things all the time and handle myself with class. And when you go back there and people remember that, it kind of affirms you did things the right way. So it's going to be special. There's a lot of old-time fans and friends and members of the program that I'm looking forward to catching up with again and seeing. I get to see them every other year with Tulane in the conference, but this should be a good time.
And when we go, I just want to thank this guy for having those friends, because it lands us, if you've seen the movie Goodfellas, there's a restaurant called Drago's, which is the best. And I don't know your connections, but we end up in a private room that looks straight out of Goodfellas. But the important question, and for those of you who don't eat oysters, forget it if you've never been there. They're charbroiled oysters. If there's a better appetizer in the world, tell me what it is.
That's my go-to. You know it as well as I do. 2 dozen charbroiled oysters. That's a meal in itself.
Yeah, but serious question. If there was no repercussions, like waistline, that kind of thing, how many could you actually eat? I figure 50 for me. If no one was watching,
Oof,
and there was, again, no repercussions.
Yeah, I'd be there for a while.
Yeah.
I'd be there for a while.
Absolutely. Now, the other members of the Tulane Hall of Fame, before we get into some South Florida stuff, people are going to recognize in Tampa Bay. Ryan Griffin, who was a quarterback there and played for the Buccaneers for a few years, got a good gig. And Andrew Friedman, who it's kind of a lifetime achievement thing, because on the actual baseball field, he might not have had the stats, but some guys that you're going to recognize for other reasons, right?
Yeah, Andrew, unbelievable president of the Dodgers, was here with the Rays before he took off for the Dodgers. The career he's had and what that Tulane education allowed him to do is incredible. Ryan Griffin, he was a little bit after me, but again, played for the Bucks, great story. And then Todd Graffinini, the voice of the Wave, now the voice of the New Orleans Pelicans. But I think he spent more years there than anybody, all of us combined. So I'm really happy for him and really proud of him.
And a really gracious individual, by the way. I'm sure he's watching, and again, going to be doing a lot of talking this weekend. Let's talk a little bit about your team last season. We started to get that feeling again, especially at the conference tournament, the amazing comeback against East Carolina. You followed it up by ending UCF's time in the American Athletic Conference then. Again, beating the Pirates twice is going to be tough. So was that almost similar to a few years ago, where you had the pieces in place but didn't quite put it fully together, and still there was optimism for the future?
Yeah, to be honest, I felt like it was just a little too late. We had some injuries on the front end of that rotation that kind of hurt us, but I just don't think, we played with passion, we played with some excitement. At the end of the day, it just wasn't good enough, and if they need any motivation going into this year, coming off a Super 2 years ago, it's time to get back to being there. So it's the consistency, it's the staying healthy, and it's last season was not acceptable, and it's time to turn the page and get this thing going again.
Anytime you have to replace your whole rotation, it's not going to be easy, and then you have injuries. But speaking, I want to bring up Ryan Kirkring, because is there a chance this guy pitches in the bigs by the end of the season?
Yeah, he's a special talent. He jumped every single level of pro ball this year. Talking to some people I know in the Phillies organization, he's really close. He's got a breaking ball that ranks in the top 5 in all the big leagues. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we have another Bull in the pros. You know, Kirk's done an outstanding job of preparing himself for the next level and continues to work hard, and I'm very happy for him.
Got to ask you about a couple of additions to the staff that are very familiar names. Always love Chris Cates. Maybe for the last few years didn't like him quite as much, but he is back from another school down the road. And of course, Alan Kunkel after a couple years at UAB, back with the Bulls. What was the thought there?
Those are 2 guys who've been here when we've won big. You know, Chris was here with me and Mark Kingston for 3 years before I brought Chris on full time in 2017, 2018. Chris has incredible passion for the game. He's got passion for his players. He's a high energy guy, which our players need, and he's a really smart baseball guy. And it's just good to have. He's a Tampa guy. He takes a lot of pride in being here in Tampa, and I'm fired up.
Do we have to have him MC the bus trips again? Is that going to be a thing?
He is our tour guide on the bus rides. So
special talent. And as we wrap up with Billy Mohl, where are we actually in the fall schedule? Can fans come out at some point and watch you guys?
Yeah, we haven't started up fully yet. We'll start the first week of October and get going into team practice. We'll scrimmage Stetson over at their place on October 28th, and then we'll end the fall probably the 3rd week in November with a Green and Gold World Series. So once we get closer to that, I'm sure we'll post some stuff on social media for the fans to come out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We got a lot of new faces, a lot of energy out here right now, and I'm excited to see what these guys can do over the next couple months.
You said October 28th at DeLand, so the wind's going to start howling out around October 27th, but it's great to catch up to you. Congratulations. I know I've told you that before, but live it up this weekend. You're going to bring some family as well?
Yep, got my mom, my dad, my wife, my 2 boys, and my brother's joining me all the way from California.
Awesome.
So very excited to see all them and kind of celebrate with them.
Also, you're allowed to transport Drago's char-broiled oysters back home.
You know, it's not the same. You got to get them. You got to get them in the restaurant. Right. But if they could, I would have had them on order already.
But we're there this year, right?
We're there this year. Good. Oysters on me.
Thank you very much. It's always around my birthday, so he's the man. Thank you again, Billy.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Derek.
We'll return with the conclusion of BullsEYE now. And as we wrap things up here on episode 4 of BullsEYE, as the Bulls are heading to Navy, Annapolis, Maryland, let's get your thoughts, Kaylee, on being able to head up there. I mean, I know you love going on the road with the team. This is just probably, to me anyway, I imagine has a different feel to it.
Yeah, I'm so excited. It's, you know, a place with a lot of tradition, and I'm excited to experience that. I've been to Baltimore, but haven't made it down that way yet, and so it'll be special and a little cooler.
I was going to say, I did check the weather forecast for you. You're going to have to wear a couple of those jackets.
Yeah, a little jacket with me.
BJ, at South Florida, you never played against a service academy, but in general, when you can think about it and you're going up against a team that's trying to run the ball, it's a weird balance because we like to go tempo. So I guess you just have to take advantage of your possessions because you know you might not get too many.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that, you know, Navy will absolutely eat up the clock. You know, that clock's going to continue to run when they run the football. They're probably going to dink and dunk and get down the field. So on the offensive side of things for South Florida, we got to make sure that we execute, take the advantage of our opportunities because we might not have a lot of them. You know, so I think that that's going to be the key to the game, and getting off the field on 3rd downs defensively. They're going to have to stop them. I imagine Navy will go for it on 4th down a lot of 4th and short situations. So it'll be very important for everyone, our entire team, just to be on point and you know, pay attention to what it is that they're seeing from them in both sides of the ball, actually.
So another fun episode. I hope you guys enjoyed all the interviews. We sure did with Billy Mohl, again, who after we talked, Orion Kirkring did what he did. So just to know, so you know, next week our guest is Erica Brennan, whose women's golf team is doing great in their 50th year. So we're going to predict they're the national champions right now, and we'll just not talk about it during the actual course of the interview. Now, who knows what's going to happen on a Saturday? I do know that we all love football, and I know you were watching the Seattle Seahawks last weekend. I don't know if you caught any of Kansas City. What's going on there?
Oh yeah, I mean,
it's the big story, so we got to talk about it.
Yeah, it's trending on Twitter.
It's trending on Twitter. So from the man, first of all, from an outfit point of view, I know Travis Kelce was feeling it afterwards because he had some sort of, I don't know what he was wearing.
Blue, white,
was that
little
over the top,
yeah.
Mr. uniform baller?
I mean, I think so. It's not something I would do, but you never know the effect of Taylor Swift. So maybe she encouraged him to put that outfit on as well. So
You a Swiftie, BJ?
no, I am not a Swiftie.
Are you, Derek? You Swiftie?
I will not take any credit for this. This is all my wife. She actually has gotten, not mistaken for Taylor Swift, but told she looks like her at times. So
That's
I'm
amazing.
very happy about that. That doesn't mean that I
Aw.
necessarily listen to a lot of Swifties music, but it is
Right.
forced upon me. And now, real quick, I'll give you guys a second. It's going to result, obviously, in a song, maybe in the next couple of weeks. So I'll give you a couple seconds to think of what that song title would be. Mine, it's, again, this could be real soon. You Drop the Ball. Is it? I mean, that's going to have to be the name of the Taylor Swift song that's coming out.
Ooh,
right?
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's
You Drop
pretty
the
good.
Ball.
And that's got to be it, right?
Okay.
Kansas City Heartbreak.
That's not bad.
Kansas City Heartbreak. Oh my goodness.
Kansas City Masterpiece. Maybe if it goes in a different direction. But,
Either way.
Let's go with Masterpiece so we
like
can
that.
continue to support Valdez.
Yes.
Yeah,
Love
let's
it.
do that.
there
Yep.
you go.
Yeah, let's
do you watch a lot of NFL on Sunday, or is it just like just wind down?
A little bit. Sundays for me, I'm preparing for the week, cleaning, do a little bit of cooking, so.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
You can't just toss that and expect me not to pick it up.
A little Salt Bay. I mean, I'm good. I'm good in the kitchen, with
Hey,
seasoning
that's
and
what
things
I'm
like that.
talking
But yeah, Sundays are for football, so the TV's on, the game is on. But I'm definitely, preparing myself for, these weeks, every week.
What do you like to cook?
Wow, you put me on the spot.
I can tell you it's not elephant ears.
I'm a big healthy guy. I like
Yeah.
making my own, rice bowls with salmon and
There you
broccoli
go.
and things like that. So I'm big on the healthy stuff. I used to cook fried chicken, and I used to, do the chicken cordon bleu and all that kind of stuff. But
Can you still do
look
that?
at you.
Because
not
that would
anymore.
happen.
Not anymore.
Because that is my jam right there.
Delish.
So it's official. There was some rice that got cooked last week. Sorry. No offense. That's going to
Love
wrap
it.
it up. Thank you guys for Kaylee and BJ. I'm Derek Sharp. Horns up. See you guys next week.